worked on the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes
I
movie?
did. I used to do some background work through the Screen Actors Guild, and Planet of the Apes was a job I got. And that I worked on other films like The Aviator, and one of my best, more recent, film school type educational things was getting to watch these big directors working. I worked on a Steven Spielberg film. I worked, so I would see how the big top directors directed, and it would always give me ideas about what I would and wouldn't do when I was going to direct a movie. But
Yeah.
when I worked on Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, that was a very demanding, physically demanding role for anyone working on that. I mean, because we were out in the desert, all the scenes where they're fighting, and I was one of the Army apes. And not only, was I in that sequence, but I was in the stuff at the studio. So I worked on that film for a couple of months, I think. And
Oh,
and every day, like when we had to go to the set in Trona, they kept us in a Motel 6, and we were buddied up with another background player. And I was I was had to get up at 3:30 in the morning every morning, get on a bus that took us to the set, and that was a 90-minute bus ride from there. And then so we just sleep on the bus, get to the set, we get into makeup, we get into our costume, they put our face on and everything. And then, boy, once you were locked into that suit, good luck trying to use the bathroom. I mean, that was really hard. But then we just wait around. We shot, they wanted us camera ready so that when the sun came up, we were able to work until the sun went down. And,
wow.
and some days the
That's
weather
a
was
crazy that's a
bad
crazy day. Up at 3 a.m. until it's a long day.
until basically, yeah, and then you get home 8 at night, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, do it all over again. There were big guys that were doing, like, I was a smaller guy. I was playing a chimp, but there were some of the big guys playing the gorillas and stuff, man. These guys were passing out. They were dropping like flies. I mean, it was really hard because to be out in the suit in this hot thing and in the desert on the hot days and then during the cold days, it was really challenging. I would have to say it was the most physically demanding job I've ever done in my life. I couldn't do it now. I mean, I guess I could, but I was a lot younger then. It was it was a fun experience because I got to see Paul Giamatti doing his thing, and all the other guys out there. I just remember watching Paul Giamatti do different takes, and then Tim Burton working with chimpanzees and getting frustrated, real chimpanzees. It's like he's like, he just didn't like these chimps because they were giving him trouble, and they were trying to do this helicopter shot where it's a POV of the ship, and they couldn't get it because the wind, and it was getting too close to us, and they didn't want to have any of us decapitated, I guess. But so it was just a very challenging shoot, and logistically we're out in the middle of the desert, so they had to have this tent city set up.
Mhm.
And Rick Baker would come in not every day, but he'd come there, and he'd line us up, and he'd check our makeup and go, okay, looks good, and look for any little flaws. So I got to see Rick Baker, and the costume designer was Colleen Atwood.
Yes.
I worked with her after on another movie called Lemony Snicket's, a series of unfortunate events.
Yes.
And I was in the whole wedding sequence, which they shot so much stuff that was not in the movie. And they even did close-ups of me that unfortunately didn't make it in the final movie. But they gave me a crazy hair. And Colleen remembered me from Planet of the Apes.
Really, really,
He
wow.
picked me out as one of the featured people in the wedding scene. So I had this nice suit and this crazy hair and a mustache. And it was several weeks on that film at Paramount with Jim Carrey, watching him do his thing. It's like having a front row seat to watching Jim Carrey work. I mean, that was a lot of fun. But anyway, so that was a great memory. But Planet of the Apes, very difficult film to work on. And sadly, didn't do the performance and it didn't really come out as well as they had hoped.
Yeah,
And I
that
was,
movie, I don't know. It's not
it's too bad, Tyler, because when we were on the set, we're like, wow, the sets were amazing. This whole soundstage, in Culver City at the old MGM studios, it was Sony, I think. And this set was amazing. It took up an entire soundstage, and it was the ape city and jungle. And then these sets out in the desert. We thought this thing's going to be incredible. Oh, and we had to go to ape school. So what we did, we were trained by this guy that was from the circus. I forget, one of these circus people.
The main guy in that movie, he became like the main ape actor. Like the guy you're talking about, but one of the guys that did the main ape acting. He does all the ape acting in the Planet of the Apes movies now, and like in the movie Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope. He stood in for the ape that they CGI'd.
You're not talking about Andy Serkis, though, right?
No, not Andy Serkis. It's another guy. He
exactly. I know who you're talking about. I forget his name, but so before the movie, we even got into an ape outfit. We had to go to these classes because Tim Burton was very specific. He didn't want us walking like people, like humans. He wanted us to kind of have an ape kind of movement. So we were trained, we were taught to do this kind of walk and thing. And
you ever fall into that ape movement nowadays at all? You ever at the grocery store and you fall into an ape state?
Oh, I'm doing it now. Okay, I mean, no, no. Honestly, that was kind of
about it. It's been 20 years.
That was I want to say I had a lot of fun, and I made a lot of money working many days on that super long hours, right? But getting SAG rates. I wouldn't want to do it again. That was the hardest job. It was in a way fun, but boy, I'll tell you what wasn't fun. They had drill instructors. Like when they had us all in platoons, like we were in the real army. They had military people. And it's like, what do they call them? Like our squads. And if some background player was late, the guy would say, "Get down and give me push." I mean, he would make us do push-ups.
What?
I mean, this was not like a fun. This was like they were treating us like we were in the military. It's like, "You're late. Get down and give us like 20 push-ups right now." They wanted to put the fear into us. And now, when we were out there fighting with the humans, and they were banging on our heads with these rubber mallets that were. But there was like a metal pole inside these rubber mallets. So, man, they were hitting us real hard. And there was all of this, what they called Fuller's Earth. Remember all the dust floating around out there?
Yeah.
Well, there was rumor of a lawsuit that was like a class action. They talked about it. I don't think it ever got off the ground. But, a lot of people on that shoot got sick because Tim Burton had a big old ventilator mask. But we were wearing these mask things, and we were just breathing in this dust, okay? And I would have it in my lungs. I mean, if I ever come down with any kind of lung respiratory illness later in life, it's going to be because I worked on that film. And, I mean, there were people that got really sick working on that film. As a matter of fact, my roommate who stayed with me, his name was Mark. He passed away. I don't think it was because of that, but he did a lot of stuff in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He went on to do a lot of higher end background work, but he was a nice guy. He was my roommate, and he got me into Florence Scovel Shinn was her name. He'd be reading these positive books, and anyway, it was kind of sad, to think that he's no longer here. But boy, what an interesting time that was, Tyler, working on that movie. But sadly, yes, all that work. See, it's like you put in all this work on a film, and sometimes it just doesn't jive, and people are like, well, that was a thing, it kind of failed. But Burton had the right idea. He wanted everything to be organic. There was not really CGI in that film. He went later, he started doing these things with the Willy Wonka.
Yeah, extended sets and all. It just gets too much.
I think after that film, he was just fed up and said, "I'm going back to animation, man." Because, when I was at Disney Studios working in the mailroom, Tim Burton was there at that time working as an animator. So and I'm from Burbank, and Burton was from Burbank. I'd see him around, and, I see him at Disney, and I went up into the animation wing when he was working on his short film, Vincent. And I'd see these little puppets. But this was like 1981, and Tim Burton, I kid you not. And of course, he became this big deal. And, he's just one of the guys that got lucky. Very talented guy. But Tim Burton is where he really shines is in his art direction. When you see the way he art directs films, because he's basically an animator, he has a great eye, and he has some good ideas. And that's his strength as a director.
Yeah.
If I have to say, if I have a strength, I think I'm
Yes.
pretty good with my I have a pretty good eye, for cinematography. And I'm very particular about the way I move my camera and camera placement and whatnot. Not to talk about myself, but telling you, Tyler, I know this has been a long-winded answer, but working on that Planet of the Apes film was a monumental. And it's sad the way it wasn't a bad movie, but it just seemed like it was missing. It was lacking in something.
It's the star. It's
Marky Mark.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah,
have it.
Yeah, he'd be around on the set, and he'd be like at the studio. He had his bike, his little bike, and he was great in Boogie Nights.
He's great in that movie, but he just
this film he was wrong for.
Yeah. He makes or breaks that movie. He just doesn't have whatever it is. He doesn't have it in Planet of the Apes.
He was playing it too cool for school. He wasn't like, he wasn't really getting it. He's like, hey, oh, but I still have to be cool. Okay, I'm Mark Wahlberg. But you're right. Good point.
Crazy stuff, and he's just like, okay.
She's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll hang with that.
Like Heston, he's big. He's like, he can't believe he's been on Earth. He's
damn dirty ape. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's over the top, and the movie's over the top. He has to match the energy, and he's just.
That brings me to an interesting point. I love over-the-top performances, okay? Some directors, they want to go totally real. They want to bring it down. Now, Johnny X, Will Keenan did it. I wanted him to underplay, and he always complained about Deanna Joy Brooks did all this broad stuff in the movie, Bliss. But, Will Keenan was known for doing it over the top. But I love actors that like to really chew on the scenery, and they got a good speech in there. They get all kind of crazy.
Yeah,
that's just my style. I mean, some director like Stanley Kubrick, I think he also liked those over the top, crazy, performances, right? The guy at the end of Clockwork Orange, that's just the, with his face, and some of these other, and then, but then you look at like a Spielberg, or he's kind of toned down quite a bit, or Scorsese has some. I love the big. I love it big. Go big or go home.
Yeah, movies are dreams. They need to be. It's all about tone, and even like David Lynch, he's all about energy. He's all about tone. He can care less about plot. And like when we're stacking, what's important? Is it narrative? Is it plot? Or is it character? Or is it this? And then some directors, to them, it's the narrative is driving the movie. Or for Lynch, it's about what you're feeling, not so much what you should be feeling narratively. It's just how you should be feeling, like Mulholland Drive. It's just we're like having Wizard of Oz being influenced in his movies. Like it's this fantasy. It's a fantasy influence. I mean, movies are timeless. They have no like when someone grounds them so much. It's like movies are dreams. Like they need to be big. They need to be stylized. They need to.
Well, you obviously love movies, and you're doing, you are presenting films for people to see, probably films that they've never seen before. But you run older movies and new movies, right?
Yeah.
Thing. And so I am just so thrilled that you're running this theater, and it's wonderful that we've met and that I've been to your theater, and it was so cool. I mean, it was like a theater in Michigan, finally, this cool theater that I, the only thing I could connect with. I tried Michigan for, 6 months, and it was the only thing I could connect with out there was your theater. So anyway, I'm glad you're doing it. You're still doing it, and keep up the great work, Tyler. And I know you want to make films too.
Yeah, I just released a music video on Halloween, so I'll send that link to you. We shot that at the theater this summer.
Awesome.
And it just got done. But you might like it. Has a split screen
nice. Okay.
Style to it.